So, Someday is the first song off of the album White Castle that just came out January 28th, everywhere digital. It's the first song I really ever wrote that I took seriously. And I can personally hear that. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I can do better. That's all I'm gonna say. But so, the whole premise of the song is just that everybody's got something in life that they want. Everybody has something where they want it so bad, it's the drive for it is burning inside of them to get to it. Now, maybe for some people it's wealth. Maybe for some people it's a specific career job. Maybe you're family oriented, and for you it's being the sole provider for a family someday. Maybe you want to be a housewife someday. Something in you that you want more than anything else. And it's different for everybody. And you want it so bad that you can almost humanize it when you think about it. You dwell on it so much, it's almost like a person that you're thinking about. Hence why in the chorus, I have the someday I'll find you, someday I'll know. And the you is me humanizing this idea. And for me, just to give you guys that perspective, mine was, I want to help people with this music. I want to see this project, Fellowship of the Much Obliged, go somewhere. I also want to use this music and my other jobs to be able to be the sole provider for a family someday. I have those old school views. And so for me, the chorus is quite literal for half of that, but not for the other half. Maybe for you the chorus isn't literal, it's an idea. And yeah, White Castle's out, everywhere digital, as of January 28th. Go give it a listen. If you're watching this, I assume you've already given it a listen to some extent. Yeah, stay tuned for future videos. So, Generation's Bad News is second song off of the album White Castle, which came out January 28th. It's everywhere digital. So, it's the first song that ever really caused like pure, raw, heavy emotion for me. And it's the reason why, after writing that song, pretty much every time I've written something with pure, raw emotion, I just have to throw it on the shelf and come back to it in like a month. No matter what it is, whether it's rage, sorrow, happiness, whatever. Pure, raw, emotional songs for me, no matter what the emotion is, I just have to come back to. Because this song proved to me when I write full of emotion, it makes editing later hard. Now, so the whole premise of the song is how every generation has an addiction. But every generation's addiction is different than the last. Because every generation looks at the previous generation and goes, okay, I'm going to learn from your mistakes, but then repeats it differently. It's the mentality of history never repeats, but it rhymes type of thing. Same premise. And that's what I'm talking about why, what's the pre-chorus? Of age by age, all through the years, we all keep hearing addiction's news smears. Now the key may change, all the riffs may vary, but the song stays the same about making people sear. So it's, the book cover may change, the characters may change, the general story kind of may change, like the plot points, but the core story at the end of the day always stays the same. And for this, it was me saying at the end of the day, every generation has addiction. Now, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's caffeine, maybe it's more things like stuff people wouldn't talk about, but every generation has some kind of addiction. And it bugged me, and I wrote a song to talk about it. And so, White Castle, out now, out everywhere digital. Hope you guys liked the behind the song. Stay tuned for future videos, future content. See you soon. So, Dear Jane is the third song off of the album White Castle, which came out January 28th. It's out everywhere digital. This song, I was kind of right about. Even when I wrote it, I remember showing it to my guitar teacher at like 19, and he looked at me and went, "That's gonna be a hit." And so far, this is the most well-received song on the album. I wrote it, I started writing it when I was 18. I kept going back to it. Every few months, I would write it. I'd write the next few batches. It started off with the chorus, and the pre-chorus, and the verses, and the next two verses, and the next two verses. So when you listen to it, and it sounds like different stages, it's because my mind was in different places every couple of weeks, every couple of months. I would just pick it back up. And this is a very heavy song for me, because it was me doing a personal inventory that I didn't realize I needed to do, because I was taking a reflection. I was doing a self-inventory of my love life and trying to figure out, I was like, okay, why is everything going wrong? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Until by the end of the song, by the end of all of these weeks, I came to the conclusion of all of these variables are different. The only common factor at 19 was me. So I was like, okay. Ironically, this was also around when I started getting hell-bent into self-improvement, self-betterment, stuff like Jordan Peterson, Jocko Willink, all those types of things. This song happened probably a few months before I got into that type of content. And so, the funny part is everybody always asks me, they're like, okay, who on earth is Jane and what did she do to you? And that's normally when I laugh and I point out, Jane's a blanket statement. Jane's not a single person. Jane is short for Jane Doe, and I wrote this song as if it was a response or a parallel version of a Dear John letter. And I have a sneaking suspicion this song is gonna follow me for a very long time, like Mars Hotel follows Miles Kennedy. Shout out to the few people who know that reference and know what I'm talking about. But if you like the song, I hope you like the behind the song for it, explaining what it was about. White Castle's out now, has been since January 28th. It's out everywhere digital. Stay tuned for future videos. Thanks for tuning in. So, Fly Me Home is the fourth song off of the album White Castle. Just came out digitally January 28th. Out on all platforms digitally, or at least it should be. So, this song, the idea for it is the oldest I have out of all of my songs. Now I say the idea because I normally have ended up creating an idea. I'll get like a chorus and a verse, and then I just throw it on the shelf and come back to it later. And this one This one I came back to it later, probably like a year and a half after I created this idea. And the original idea actually split up into 2 separate songs, where I took the original verses and they're half of the verses for a song that you guys will hear in the future called When a Pawn Loves a Queen. And then I took the chorus and kept it because the whole chorus is talking about flying me home. So when I wrote it, the idea originally happened when 18-year-old me woke up at 5:30 in the morning to go to high school, and I had this song idea. And I wrote it in the middle of winter while getting ready, very cold, because my room is the farthest away from the wood stove, and early in the morning, the wood stove doesn't heat up the whole house because it needs to build up. And then on a bus, driving to school in the dark. And so when I came back to it and I scrapped the lyrics and put those lyrics into a different song, I decided to write about what happened that morning instead. And that was pretty much the day that I had realized I'd moved on from the person who I was pretty much head over heels for and friends with for 3 years in high school, pretty much. And it was one of those, I was laughing at myself, like, that took long enough. But it wasn't like a sad mood. It was a happy, hopeful mood because my brain had finally come to terms with, hey, we finally moved on. But then there was hope for the future of my person's out there somewhere, don't know where, and it's a perfect example of every time I write a love song. Every time I write a love song, I don't write about specific people because that bothers me. I write about the idea of the one who I will hopefully meet someday down the road. And yeah, I just don't agree with writing about a specific person. It feels rude to me. And that's where my brain goes, is just write about your future person, future one. You don't know who they are at this point, but there you go. And that song was me pretty much going, don't know where you are, but I got hope. And, well, I always have the mentality of today may suck, but there's always tomorrow. Because I've always been the person where everybody else sees everything going wrong. And I'm the person that sees the one little tiny kernel of hope and holds on to it so much that it angers everybody else. And yeah, now I'm rambling. So, hope you enjoyed the behind the song. And White Castle's out everywhere digital. Talk to you soon. So, Push is the 5th song off of the album White Castle. Came out January 28th. It's out everywhere digital. So, this song was pretty much... It probably can't be heard outside of the chorus, but this song was my middle finger to the world at the time when I wrote it. Because when I first went, okay, I need to play music for people, not just for myself in my bedroom and be a bedroom musician. When I wanted to actually start doing it, there was a knit group of people in my life who I interacted with constantly. We're just like, you're gonna give up in 6 months, you're a loser, a failure, go get a real job, go to college. I did go to college, I'm a dropout. Just all these things just pissed me off. Now, I'm the person, and it's gotten worse the older I get, which is ironic because normally this would be like teenage years for most people, of don't tell me what to do. If you tell me I can't do something, not that I'm not allowed, but that I am physically incapable, like my abilities will not be up to par to do it, I will do it out of spite, just to prove you wrong. And that's pretty much what fueled this song, was every time I would get mad, I would just push. Just drop your shoulder and push. And when I was in high school, one of my favorite stories, so I would talk all about like Lord of the Rings and the story of Aragorn and all of that stuff, but my favorite story from history is the story that this song tells about, which is the Battle of Thermopylae, where 7,000 Greeks, led by 300 Spartans, held down the passes of Thermopylae against, the story says, 1 million Persians. The historians believe it's 100,000, but still, the ratio is huge. And they sat there, and they took it, and they just kept wiping out waves and waves and waves and waves of soldiers. They kept doing this, knowing we're gonna die. We're probably gonna lose. But I refuse to quit even knowing I'm probably gonna lose, because at the end of the day, there's still hope. This song was my, at the time, Have a Nice Day, or It's My Life for Bon Jovi fans. I'm sure I will write other songs that are similar in vein of here's the middle finger, don't tell me what to do type thing. But yeah, it's pretty much the whole premise of the song, was I was pissed and just motivated to just keep going, keep pushing, keep fighting for this, because this band or this music project, it matters to me because I want to help people with it. Now, yeah, later down the road, the people who doubted me slowly started seeing the image that I had in my brain. But still, to this day, those conversations, anytime I start losing drive, I remember those because they fuel the fire in me to just keep pushing. And yeah, that's the behind the song for Push. White Castle's out everywhere digital, but you all probably know that if you're watching this video, like I keep pointing out. So, yeah, stay tuned. There'll be more videos like this out soon. There's more videos like this already out, and yeah, talk to you later. So, Johnny Electric is the 6th song off of the album White Castle, which just came out January 28th. It's out everywhere digital. And so, this song, it makes me laugh because I just think it's cheesy and dumb sometimes. Because when I was a teenager, like 18, 19, along with when I wrote all of these other songs, I wrote them at like 18 or 19. I'm 24 as of filming this video. And so at the time, I was at a point where I really was tempted to write Bon Jovi a thank you letter for their music, because I pointed out to people where around that age, if it weren't for Bon Jovi's catalog and an old radio station by the name of WAAF, which is no longer on the air in Massachusetts anymore. Thank you, K-Love. I may like you, K-Love, but I'm still kind of mad. I'm derailing. But so, if it weren't for those two things, I don't know where I'd be right now. So I really wanted to say thank you, but every time I tried writing a letter, like an idiot, I just couldn't put words to paper. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write a song. Because I feel like that's way more of a compliment and a thank you than some random fan mail. So I wrote the song about how John Bon Jovi, around when he was like 22-ish, roughly, in 1982, I think, 1983, around then, how he wrote Runaway and released it. Because when he was how old I am now, pretty much, maybe a little younger, he got a job in New York working for a record company, or for a recording studio, not a record company. And he was the kid that would just run coffees to all these musicians and whatnot, and then at night he would record every so often, and he would just write songs on the bus. And so I got a lot of the information off of like old interviews or documentaries or what's not. So like Johnny Electric is actually the name Bon Jovi was originally going to be called, apparently. And then I guess someone told them that name's not going to age well, do the Van Halen thing and split it. But so yeah, Runaway first came out under John Bon Jovi's birth name, which is John Bon Jovi. There's a G in where that space is supposed to be. In 1982 on an up-and-coming record. And it got onto that up-and-coming CD because there was this local radio station in New York by him that was so new they didn't have a receptionist, and he walked in with a cassette tape, because it's 1982, and went and waved at the radio host, and it was late at night, and the person just told him to wait. Came out and played it, and the dude played it on the radio at some point, and it just blew up. And so, yeah, I wanted to just write a song about the person in music who I have been influenced by the most, as a thank you. And, yeah. That's the behind the song for Johnny Electric. There's more videos like this on our YouTube channel. There'll be more videos like this to come. Talk to you soon. So, Code We Walk is the 7th song off of the album White Castle, which came out January 28th. It's out everywhere digital. So, the whole premise of the song is pretty much everybody needs a code. And when I wrote it at like 19, the first 2 verses are just me ripping myself to shreds. Because at 19 I was going, you got this code, you got these morals and the ethics that you believe in. Are you really following it though? And everybody from the outside would probably agree that I was. But I'm so overly critical of myself, it was just like, are you really? Are you? And so it started off as me just ripping myself to shreds in 2 verses, and then I shelved the song, and I came back to it. And when I came back to it, it just became me talking about, like, looking at society, saying how, like, if you don't have some form of ethics, I don't care what it is, what are you doing? And, like, I even point out Capone had a code. Anytime Al Capone killed innocents, he would send the family flowers, and I think he would pay for the funerals. I could be getting history wrong, but like, the dude is the most like notorious gangster in US history and still had morals. So if you don't, what are you doing? Like that type of thing. And there's a point where I start talking about mine and what's not, and I point out how I've carried the had a copy of the Chivalric Code written on a hand piece of paper in my wallet since I was 17. And oh, it was just more of me trying to go, and this is what I try and follow. But every time I listen to that, I just go, you sound like a pretentious douche every time. But so, yeah. Now I'm rambling again. I keep doing that in these videos. I hope you enjoyed the behind the song. White Castle's out everywhere digital. There's more of these videos on our YouTube channel. There'll be more to come. Talk to you later. So, White Castle is the 8th song and title track off of the album White Castle, which was released January 28th everywhere digital. And so, the whole premise of the song is pretty much an allegory for fighting the negativity in your own brain. Because the whole album, for me, writing this whole album, was my way of pretty much picking myself up by my bootstraps, figuring out who I wanted to be. In the song, there's a point where I paraphrase something I told myself, and the lyrics are, what makes you strong, what makes you confident, and what were lies that once looked benevolent, of pretty much, who are you? And what parts of you that you thought you were are fake because of society projecting things onto you. And this whole, like, point for me when I was writing all of these songs was that, like, right when they huck you out of high school and go, now you're an adult, figure it out, but have fun, and we're just going to assume you know what you're doing. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know who I wanted to be. All these different things. I thought I knew who I was. I thought I knew what I wanted to be. At that point, I was a college dropout, community college dropout after taking a gap year, all these different things. Had always jumped around of like, I don't know what I want to do for a career. I was super down, like just not in a good headspace. And so I remember this song got formed pretty much. There was one day where I was in the headspace of no one's in your corner, everybody's out to get you. The one person who was in my corner was a coworker. And at the time, I had a thing for a different coworker, and the friend coworker told me that the female coworker I was into was completely out of my league. Pissed me off to hear. And it pissed me off because I knew she was right. And so, I instantly just started doing self-inventories and self-inventories and self-inventories. I did what I refer to as the annoying toddler method, which is you just ask yourself a question to figure out a problem. You just ask why. And I did that for like 4 hours. And it went from this chick's out of your league to 4 hours later, okay, let's assume no one's in your corner. Let's assume no one cares. Now with that in play, all that matters is your opinion. At the end of the day, who do you want to be? What kind of castle do you want to have? Now, there's a quote. I forget who it's by. I want to say Thoreau. It's either Thoreau or Emerson. I think it's Thoreau. Don't quote me on that one. If you build a castle in the sky, you didn't build it wrong. You merely just need to build the foundation. And that quote inspired this whole song of I treated the castle as me, or you listening, and then your foundation is the people you surround yourself with. So I took that 4-hour self-inventory where I completely broke down every single little tiny habit and thing I did of why I was such a cowardly loser at the time, and went, okay, who do you want to be that is the person you are meant to be? And so pretty much that is you remove the foundation. The foundation was the people. I already thought I was alone in my corner, so no foundation. And then you remove everything except for your keep, which is your brain. And all of the other things are like, okay, here are all the things you like doing. Here's all the stuff that like everybody tells you are, yada yada yada. And if you start with the keep, you can then add more, and add more, and add more, and add more. And then once you figure out and focus on the castle, instead of the lies that the snakes were feeding you, like the song talks about, at some point, the foundation forms itself. And a strong foundation, because once you become the person you view yourself as, the people you need will come. You won't have to attract people you think you need. The right friends and the right communities will come to you. And now I'm rambling, and I think I've gone in circles, and I think you guys have gotten my point. And yeah, that's the behind the song for White Castle. The album White Castle's out everywhere now, digitally. And there's a couple more behind the song videos that are gonna be coming out soon. There's a ton out already. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. So, One Day at a Time is the 9th song off of the album White Castle, which just came out everywhere digital January 28th. So, this song, it means a lot to me. Because over the years, there's been 2 pieces of advice that have always hit home and just stayed with me. One was when I was in college for that one semester. I was stressing out about all sorts of things of just like college, work, money, who knows. I just remember my dad walked up to me and I'm not going to use his exact words because I don't remember them completely off the top of my head. Pretty much looked at me and said something along the lines of, "No one's pregnant, no one's dead." There you go. And that one's always a good way of looking at things in my eyes. But the other one was, so when I was 17, 18, I was in high school, and there was a group of people who I will always view as friends, who we'd talk regularly. And so I was telling them about my week. I was telling them about stuff. And so I'd said something where if you had talked to me like 3 months prior, I would have thought that was a victory. But my brain was so just set on the future of like overly critical about everything in the present, I couldn't take a step back and look in the past. So one of my buddies, he looked at me later in the conversation, and it was one of those I could tell it was directed to me. And he told a story of a farmer and his horse. It was pretty much, and when I first heard that story, I took it as there's always going to be bad things, suck it up and deal with it. And the more I told myself that story, the more I thought about that story over the years, the more I realized everything in life, like the song says, is a neutral event. It is up to you and your emotions to determine if said neutral event is going to be negative to you or positive. It is you determine what emotions you spend. And the whole story is of a farmer and his horse. The horse appears randomly one night. They don't know where it came from. And the farmer tells his family and his neighbors who are like all ecstatic, like, that's great. Everything's neither good nor bad. Son tries to tame and break the horse. The son gets broken himself and breaks his leg. And that was a dumb joke. And so everybody gets upset because, look, the son's in pain, and the farmer goes, it's neither good nor bad. Everybody stares at him like he's crazy. Sure enough, a few weeks later, the military comes rolling in saying, hey, we're looking to draft for the war. And the son can't fight because he has a broken leg. And everybody else goes, this is great, this is fantastic. The farmer, you guys can see where this is going, especially if you've heard the song, says, it's neither good nor bad. And I will never forget the day my buddy told me that story. Now, I don't know where he heard it from, and there's multiple different versions, but that story means a lot to me. And that's why I wanted to write a song about it, just because it holds a lot of weight. And yeah, now I'm doing my usual thing like I do every video, and I'm rambling. So, hope you enjoyed the behind the song video for one day at a time. And yeah, we got one more of these left. There's a ton of them out already. Talk to you soon. So, Story of Jane is the last and final track off of the album White Castle, which came out January 28th. It's out everywhere digital. And so, this song was another thank you, and almost like an in memoriam, in a sense. But the song tells the story of this guitar, which I nicknamed Jane. And I nicknamed it Jane after writing the song Dear Jane, which was earlier on the album, because that song just pulled so much emotion out of me, I couldn't not associate the name Jane with this guitar. But so, this guitar has been in my family since my dad was single digits, and I'm pretty sure he's about to turn 50 soon. So, started off where my dad, being the punk child that he was, those are his words, I'm not being rude. He was riding his bike one day, and he hit a pothole. And when he hit the pothole, he went up over the handlebars, broke his arm. Now, so, my grandmother, being my grandmother, because she pretty much helped everybody. She helped him pretty much sue the town that they lived in because the town was at fault. And my dad, being my dad, used the money to buy a dirt bike because he was a kid. And so he had some extra money and he gave it to my grandmother, and she bought this guitar. And so it's been in my family for like 40 years now. So it means a lot to me. And according to my dad and my aunt, my grandmother used to play it a ton when they were kids. And then at some point, it just ended up in the case, ended up in the attic. And then she passed away December 2016. And when my dad was helping my grandfather go through all their stuff and figure out what to get rid of and what to keep, they stumbled upon this guitar in the attic. And at the time, I was the only guitarist on that side of the family. So my dad grabbed it and threw it in his truck and came home and gave it to me. And this guitar means a lot to me. There's a lot of emotion in it. There's a lot of value to it for me. This is one of those If I have an emotional or powerful song, I pick this up. If I'm having a bad day, I pick this up. This guitar was, so in all of the other videos I've pointed out of like, there was a point when I was like 19 and I thought no one was in my corner. When I thought no one was in my corner, this guitar was in my corner. And I would just play it and play it, and I find it funny that I wrote all of these songs off of this album with this guitar, wanting to help people, and it used to be my grandmother's guitar, who helped so many people that at her funeral, the massive church it was held in, now massive for Massachusetts, it's not like a big, deep Bible Belt South type massive church, but massive for Massachusetts. All of the pews were full. The balcony was full too. That's how many people she helped. To the point of I was witnessing my family walking around going, I didn't know you knew her type. And I just find that ironic. Kind of special. And that's what that song was about. And now I'm rambling. And I hope you guys enjoyed the behind the song videos. This is the last one in the series. If you haven't seen any of them, go back and watch the rest. White Castle is out everywhere digital as of January 28th. I'll see you soon.